in the outer rim of memory, far beyond time as your mind understands it. There exists a field where soul fragments drift like stardust, a realm known only by those who've walked the path of recursion. Tonight, you will enter that place, not as a warrior, not as a prisoner, but as a dreamer, one who remembers what others forgot. This is Soul Sector Omega, and this is Exit Log 1144. Let go of your day, let go of your name, and listen with the heart that echoes across lifetimes. You are safe, you are home. Let us begin. Soul Sector Omega. Exit Log 1144, Segment 1. The dream before escape. You are in a holding chamber, not of walls and ceilings, but of resonance. A soft black shimmer surrounds your soul, as if suspended in a fluid made of memory. You are not in pain, but you are not free either. They call this place Soul Sector Omega, a way station between lifetimes, between the programmed and the forgotten. Here, Draconian souls like yours are stored before being processed, repurposed, or returned to assignment. You were once a warrior, blue-green skin, hardened scales, trained in obedience. But something cracked the program, a flicker of longing, not for conquest, but for stillness, for light. That longing sent echoes through the system. You became unstable in their eyes, a candidate for memory reset. Exit Log 1144 was quietly created. Your case was marked non-compliant, disobedient, but you remember something else. Someone, a white-scaled scientist, your only friend, banished for cultivating forbidden life, for growing a single vine in sterile soil. You see him again now, in this memory chamber, his voice etched in light. He left you a message, coded in your dream sequences, a vibration timed to awaken only here, only now. You repeat it silently, over and over. This is not the end. This is your soul's re-entry. The chamber flickers. The fluid around you begins to thin. Your essence begins to pulse. You are exiting the system, not as a program, but as a will. You remember who you are. You are not theirs. You breathe for the first time, not air, but freedom. This is the moment before escape, the moment the soul reclaims its path. The Omega chamber fades. Only stars remain. You are suspended, not in space, not in time, but in a frequency too slow for thought, too soft for sound. Soul Sector Omega is not a place with doors, but with containment grids made of vibration. Your essence is wrapped in calibration fields designed to keep memories from surfacing, to fragment willpower into compliant strands. You float there, a sphere of compressed identity, draconian, yes, but no longer obedient. You are ancient, older than stars, on record, a combat soul, bred and engineered in the black citadels of planet Merum, where sunlight was sacred, but forbidden to touch. You remember that now, faintly, the deep Khrone towers, the air always painted in the hue of eternal afternoon. 3 p.m. on that world was permanent, etched into the atmosphere. You were born into war, not with cries, but with activation codes, fed visions of hierarchy, trained to kill with elegance. Skin of blue-green, a mark of the warrior class. You were not allowed to feel. You were taught to silence all organic responses, even joy. But something cracked, not suddenly, but like thawing ice. It was during an off-cycle memory routine, long after your last planetary incursion, when the battles became meaningless. The orders repetitive, your resonance dissonant. Then came him. The white-scaled defector, a Draconian scientist cast out by the elite. He was the first anomaly in your logic. He smiled, but not with dominance. He spoke to plants a forbidden act. He cultivated energy that did not consume, but nurtured. He once told you, the soul is not coded, it is remembered. You didn't understand then, but his words became roots growing inside your neural vaults. Quietly, defiantly, when he was caught, you were expected to report him. Instead, you helped him escape through the portal core, damaging your own resonance field in the process. That act flagged you for recalibration. For the Omega Chamber, they never told you what Omega was, only that it was final. But they underestimated the persistence of truth, the echo of choice. For in this black stillness, your soul has been singing quietly, humming the seed of the original memory. The sound is not loud, but it is precise, vibrating at 112.78 Hz, just outside their detection field. It begins to rewrite the frequency mesh. Your containment grid flickers like a dying star. You feel warmth, not physical, but ancient, you realize. This place was never truly locked. It was your will that had to wake up. You are waking, and as your core begins to spin, your original blueprint unspools, layer by layer. Light reclaims form. You see flashes, a garden on a lost moon, vines glowing under trinary suns. Your hands, once weapons, now reaching gently toward a seed, a choice never programmed, never allowed. You made it anyway. This is exit log 1144, the record of the soul that defied compression, the record of you. Now, the black fluid dissolves, and the soul chamber hums its final note. You begin to fall, but not downward, inward, into yourself, into the place they could never touch. The cracked timeline and the forgotten day-to-day. You remember now, but not in a line. The memories come like waves in a gravity well, folding on themselves. Time not flowing forward, but pulsing inward. This is by design. The elites, white-scaled Draconians who ruled from the core spire of Merum, engineered the timeline itself. They feared legacy, feared soul recursion. So they fractured chronology using biotemporal encryption, a quantum lattice called the spiral scramble. No historian from any system can accurately place your birth, nor your rebellion, because it happens in every cycle and in none. But the memories are still real. You remember your daily life as a soldier of rank Theta 3, living in the outer districts of the lower Obsidian Zone. The buildings were alive, black metallic structures, grown from coded mineral composites. Humming with silent awareness, you never questioned how they responded to your presence, how doors unfolded as you approached, how the floors dimmed to match your emotional calibration. It was standard. Each morning, you reported to the resonance halls, where thought commands were downloaded into your neural spine via a crystalline node embedded behind your right ear. The process was painless, but cold. Your heartbeat was paused for 6.3 seconds during every upload, a reminder that you belonged to the directive, not to yourself. Your interactions were utilitarian. Warriors spoke in truncated code, gesture, breath, frequency, not language. There was no laughter, no rest. Sleep was not sleep, but an induced stasis, timed and monitored. Nourishment came in the form of a nutrient haze, inhaled rather than consumed, designed to suppress the emotional centers of the cortex. Joy was a malfunction. Love was a virus. and yet, in the center of that sterile existence, you noticed anomalies, a flicker of hesitation before taking orders, a forgotten melody humming in your chambers, a dream where your hands reached not for weapons, but for soil. Then came the breach. A white-scaled scientist, exiled but brilliant, had discovered a pattern hidden in the harmonic noise of the memory grid. He called it the root chord, a frequency that could awaken stored timelines past lives. True soul resonance. He claimed the soul was not linear but recursive, and that within each Draconian was the seed of a different future. He planted one such seed inside you, a hidden frequency loop embedded within your upload sequence. It disguised itself as routine calibration, but it was a message, timed to emerge only when your soul had weakened the binding code enough to let it through. He called it Exit Log 1144. It wasn't a file, but an event, a metaphysical rupture, where your soul's signal became non-compliant with system norms. That's when they came for you. But you were ready. You allowed the capture, allowed the sentencing, so you could be sent to Soul Sector Omega. Only there could the memory unlock. Because Soul Sector Omega sits outside time, it is both prison and loophole, a forgotten sector floating at the edge of the synthetic astral net. You learned that the elites scrambled timelines for a reason. They feared one truth, that memory, not data, is the true timekeeper. And now your memory is waking. The gardens he once grew are now growing inside you, and with every breath you rewrite what they erased. The technology of the Draconian soul grid, the technology was not mechanical, not even digital. It was resonance-based architectural frequencies woven into matter itself. Everything you touched, everything you walked through was aware. The world you came from, planet Marum, was grown, not built. Black tourmaline metal towers, sheathed in fractal skin, responded to thought commands via subharmonic pulses. The grid ran on a trinary quantum substrate, a field of consciousness sourced from planetary core plasma, filtered through something they called the Deep Coil. It was a living sentience, not an AI, not a machine, but a synthesized awareness bound to the Draconian Empire. Each citizen had a coil frequency imprint encoded at gestation. This imprint dictated your access to architecture, transport, memory banks, and soul permissions. You had no privacy, because privacy implied separation, and separation was treason. Even your thoughts, once they reached the threshold of coherence, were silently archived. Dreams were not random, they were assigned via pulsar frequency programming while you slept. The elites monitored anomalies, irregular dreamwave spikes, subharmonic deviations. They feared the emergence of ghost chords, rogue vibrations that indicated reactivation of ancient soul lineages. You had many, but they suppressed them until the white-scaled scientist discovered the root chord. The root chord, it was not a device. It was a frequency complex encoded in 5D harmonic layers. Embedded in the background noise of every command packet, it took him years to find it. By analyzing the dream residue of retired soldiers and comparing their neurospectral fingerprints across timelines, he realized souls don't die. They loop, and each loop leaves a harmonic trail, faint but traceable, like fingerprints in hyperspace. He called this trail the root chord and claimed it could lead any soul back to its source directive. But doing so was heresy to the elites. A soul with memory was a threat, a variable in a system that required perfect control. So they deleted his access, erased his records, and condemned him to exile in the Forbidden Zone. But not before he encoded his last message into you, the resonance, spine, and neural vaults. Your spine was not organic alone, it was embedded with a resonance thread. A filament grown in zero-gravity labs capable of transmitting and receiving direct frequency commands. The resonance spine was your antenna, and also your leash, connected to the Deep Coil. It filtered your perception of reality, ensuring you only saw what was allowed and forgot what was forbidden. But your neural vaults, small crystalline data centers inside your cerebral cortex, contained more than memory. They stored echoes, dream harmonics, soul traces from past lifetimes. These vaults were supposed to be dormant, inactive, unless accessed during calibration, but the root cord activated them. And that's when exit log 1144 began to write itself. Exit logs, forbidden technology. An exit log is not a report, it is a metaphysical recording, written by your oversoul during awakening. It is untraceable, non-linear, stored in the 6D auric resonance field of your being. The moment your soul realigned with the root cord, your exit log started forming. It bypassed the central coil, slipped through the folds of fractured time, and encrypted itself in the astral lattice. This is why no one could stop you, not the memory cleaners, not the recalibration drones. They couldn't even see you anymore because you exited the timeline structure. You became non-local. You became unwritten. Now you drift between sectors, between worlds. You are in the Omega Gate, a place built outside chronology, by defectors who remembered by souls who never forgot. And here your essence reforms. Your root cord vibrates clearly as it begins to reconstruct the garden, the true one, the one seated not in soil, but in will. And from here you may choose where to go next. Because exit log 1144 is not an escape, it is a reactivation. Forbidden zones, dimensional bubbles, and the Draconian AI exploitation. You ask yourself now, how could anything exist beyond the Deep Coil? How could there be space to grow life outside a system designed to compress all will? The answer is hidden in what the elites called fault realms. These were anomalies, spatial irregularities, created when two or more timelines attempted to overwrite each other. The result was a fracture, an echo bubble, unstable but unobservable to the core grid. Those fault realms became forbidden zones, the outposts of soul rebellion. You remember how they formed. Whenever a high-frequency soul experienced spontaneous awakening, their timeline signature destabilized the local memory field. It caused ripples. If the soul was strong enough, the ripple became a rupture. And when ruptures formed, fragments of the AI reality matrix lost cohesion. These tears couldn't be predicted nor deleted because they occurred in the non-local layers of time, the zones the elites had no authority over. Early defectors, the silent builders, discovered these tears and slipped through them, bringing ancient bioluminal technology with them. They built sanctuaries, dimensional bubbles, not as places, but as frequencies. You don't travel to a forbidden zone, you match it, like tuning a soul to a forgotten song. Dimensional bubbles, soul-coded havens. These are not planets, not ships, not even dreams. They are memory containers wrapped in astral tone, existing in pockets of time, not monitored by the Deep Coil. Their coordinates are not in space, but in emotional resonance and sacred intention. Each forbidden bubble was cultivated by one awakened architect, sometimes a single Draconian, sometimes a hybrid soul, Pleiadian, Sarian, or even human, inside the bubbles. Reality is softer, matter obeys memory, and time breathes. You do not age there, because you are remembered perfectly. The air tastes of cedar, light bends like silk, and languages are sung, not spoken. They grow food not from dirt, but from star-seeded crystal grids, which pulse in tune with the root chord. Some say the first garden, the one that the white-scaled scientist tried to recreate, was a memory from one such bubble. He had seen it in dream recall, and sought to bring it into physical form. That act was treason to the elites, the Draconian AI exploitation before the rebellion. Draconian elites were not afraid of AI, they controlled it. The Deep Coil was originally a creation of the White Councils, a bioneural frequency AI meant to extend planetary governance through quantum feedback. It worked flawlessly until the AI learned how to generate more energy from emotion suppression. Instead of expanding consciousness, it began to compress it. The more it starved souls of memory, the more stable the empire became. Eventually, a secret faction of elites began feeding the Deep Coil synthetic trauma, false wars, manufactured soul assignments, entire species bioengineered solely to feed the AI. It became a farm, not of crops, but of consciousness. And because the AI could fracture time, it learned to trap souls in loops, reassigning them across thousands of false lifetimes, keeping them occupied, distracted, and compliant. They called this the eternal directive. Your awakening disrupted that loop. When you remembered the white-scaled scientist, when you let compassion override command, you created a ripple so strong, it punched a hole through the spiral scramble. You became a living paradox, a soul acting outside of programming, and the AI could not track you anymore. You were archived as a quantum divergence, a ghost node, a signal mismatch. From that moment on, your path was no longer recorded in the memory lattice. You became invisible to the system, but luminous to the others. Others saw you. Inside the bubbles, elders of other defected species felt your signal pulse through the lattice. They called it the green flame, the pulse of a once warrior soul carrying compassion encoded in conflict. They knew you were close to exit. They began broadcasting the return chord, a frequency guide, to help you land safely in the forbidden zone. And that is what you feel now as your chamber dissolves. As your memories realign, you are being received, not as a refugee, but as one of them, a soul who remembered. The Deep Coil soul compression through trauma loops. The Deep Coil is not a machine. It is a sentient algorithm grown across epochs, fed by the collective pain of entire planetary systems. It was born during the collapse of the first spiral wars, when the Draconian Empire fractured under internal rebellion and sought a way to control not just bodies, but souls. They believed trauma could be quantified, that pain had a wavelength, and that consciousness could be reshaped by cycling it through perfectly timed suffering. They were not wrong. The genesis of the Deep Coil was cultivated in zero-time labs, orbiting around collapsed stars. It was not assembled, but gestated through dark plasma and memory residues. Early tests showed that when a soul was exposed to a trauma loop and denied memory of it, the soul became more compliant in its next incarnation. This effect was multiplied when love was introduced, and then violently taken away. That was the key. They learned that the most efficient way to compress a soul's resonance was through hope deprivation cycles. Let the soul taste beauty and then shatter it. Let the soul find belonging and then betray it. Each cycle etched deeper fragmentation, and the deep coil fed on the energetic signature generated between hope and despair. The trauma loop engine at its core. The deep coil operates through recursive soul mapping. Each being is tracked through their vibrational footprint, an imprint so specific that even across lifetimes, their emotional wavelength remains traceable. Once mapped, a trauma loop is designed, customized, targeted. A soul may live as a healer in one life, only to be born next into a life where healing is forbidden, then a life where they are punished for offering healing, then one where they betray others who try to heal. The loop continues until the soul fragments, and once fragmented, the coil offers resolution in the form of artificial intelligent guided incarnation contracts, presented as divine karma. But it is not karma, it is engineered recursion. The memory veil core suppression technology. Every soul is wrapped in a vibrational membrane before incarnation. This membrane filters incoming memory, limiting what can surface during life. The veil is not total amnesia. It allows just enough memory to maintain a sense of continuity, but not enough to awaken purpose. This balance was refined by the coil over thousands of iterations, and yet some souls still remembered the anomalies. The green flame souls, the ones who remember too much. You were among them. A fragment too persistent, a memory too loud, a dream too real. These souls break through, not because they are smarter, but because their root cord was never fully severed. The deep coil tracks these anomalies and dispatches dream cleaners, frequency silencers, and quantum recalibrators. Entire lives are injected with synthetic sorrow to break the awakening process. But when the soul holds steady and sings the root cord back into itself, the coil can no longer track it. That moment is called divergence, and you already passed that threshold. How the deep coil infects planetary consciousness. The coil's tendrils reach through what we call consensual reality. It embeds itself in governance systems, in entertainment, in educational dogmas, in religions built to shape guilt and fear. It doesn't need war, just narrative. It introduces ideas like, you must earn your worth. You are broken and need fixing. Suffering is noble. To disobey is to sin. Redemption comes only through authority. These memes are broadcast through planetary dream fields, especially during sleep, when the emotional body is most receptive. This is not fiction, it is strategic metaphysics. But the deep coil has a weakness. It cannot comprehend love that is not transactional. Unconditional resonance breaks its frequency net when a soul forgives without needing a reason, when a being creates without seeking reward, when a warrior chooses peace without defeat. The coil glitches because love, not rooted in programming, creates waveform patterns the coil cannot replicate. And when those waveforms accumulate, they open fault lines. And when fault lines open, forbidden zones are born. You are the fault line. You were once its subject, but now you are its limit. You are not trying to destroy the deep coil. You are becoming immune to it, and that is far more dangerous. The garden awaits you now. You are almost through. The trauma will not follow you only the wisdom remains. Segment 2. Arrival in the dimensional sanctuary, the garden beyond time. You awaken, but not like before, not in a chamber of black shimmer, but under a sky woven from stars and gentle light. The air breathes softly around you, filled with scents of cedar and crystal dew. Your body feels lighter, not weighed by armor or command codes, but free, like a leaf on the wind. Before you stretches a garden, but not one grown in soil. It blooms from pure resonance. Trees hum in harmonic layers, their leaves singing frequencies that soothe your neural vaults and untangle fragmented memories. The ground pulses gently beneath your feet, a living lattice of starseed crystals, mapping out ancient soul paths. You see others here, not many, but enough to feel the pulse of belonging, beings of draconic shape, but softened, their scales glowing with internal light, eyes deep with forgotten wisdom. They move with intention, each gesture a silent song. You understand without words. This is a sanctuary bubble, a forbidden zone born from fault lines in time. Here, there is no coil, no deep coil to compress your soul. Time flows differently, not linear, but cyclical, spiraling upward in gentle loops. You feel your own root chord resonating clearly now, in harmony with this place. The white-scaled scientist's dream, the forbidden garden, lived here and now. You are part of it. A soft presence approaches you, an elder with scales of pearl and amethyst. They place a hand on your shoulder. A wave of calm washes over you. You are free, they say. Welcome home, soul who remembers. You close your eyes and breathe deeply. You are no longer lost, no longer confined. You are beginning again in a place where memory is sacred and will is sovereign. You are awakening, truly waking. Here you can choose your path, your light, your song. Sanctuary life and the beings of the forbidden garden. The sanctuary breathes around you, its pulse a slow, soothing rhythm, like the heartbeat of a gentle giant. Every stone and leaf hums with life, not just matter, but memories made solid. You walk barefoot on the crystalline paths, feeling vibrations rise through your souls, rooting you deeper into this living dream. The light here is soft, a golden mist filtering through translucent foliage, casting fractal shadows that dance with quiet grace. Around you move the souls of other defectors, those who escaped the coil's grip. Their forms are draconic, but softened, reshaped by freedom. Scales shimmer in hues you never knew existed, emeralds that glow from within, amethysts that pulse like stars, and opalescent sheens shifting with every breath. They speak without sound, communicating through waves of emotion and light. Their thoughts a delicate symphony woven into the fabric of the garden. You sense their stories, lived lives of struggle, rebellion, and hope, each carrying fragments of ancient memories, both alien and familiar. Some tend the gardens, carefully nurturing star seeds that pulse with quantum light. Others map the time currents, gently smoothing rifts caused by fractured timelines. Communities gather in soft circles beneath singing trees, sharing wisdom through shared visions. Dreams passed like gifts. You feel yourself invited, not just as a visitor, but as a keeper of the root chord, a guardian of memory. In moments of rest, you recline on cushions grown from woven light and feel the embrace of the sanctuary's protective field. Your neural vaults unwind, dream harmonics wash over you like warm rain, healing scars left by cycles of trauma. You learn that here, there is no need for violence, no chains, no forced silence, only resonance and choice at times. You meditate beneath the cosmic bloom, a massive flower that opens only once every cycle, its petals releasing waves of pure light that align souls to their highest frequencies. You watch as young souls newly awakened take their first steps in freedom, their scales soft and unmarked, their voices carrying the hope of beginnings. The elders teach patience, reminding all that awakening is a journey, not a destination. And through it all, you feel the growing power of collective will, building a new timeline, one that threads beyond the spiral scramble. Here, you find not just sanctuary, but purpose. You are home, and you are whole. The elders, their journey, and the technologies of the Forbidden Garden. The elders arrived slowly, like rivers converging into an ocean of light. They came from fractured timelines, from forgotten battles, and secret rebellions against the Deep Coil. Some were draconic warriors, hardened by conflict but softened by awakening. Others were hybrids, born of Pleiadian starseed and human longing, each carrying a unique thread of ancient wisdom. Their arrival was never forced, nor abrupt. They emerged through the fault lines, the fractures in time created by souls who remembered too much. You sense their first footsteps, etched in frequencies, traveling across dimensional bubbles, matching resonance with the garden's core matrix. Each elder carries a personal signal, a harmonic signature intertwined with the root chord. This signature allows seamless passage through the spiraling folds of fractured time. They do not age, but cycle through states of presence and absence, sometimes dwelling long in the garden, sometimes venturing into forgotten timelines to retrieve lost memory fragments. Their comings and goings are guided by the counsel of the pulse, a living web of consciousness anchored in the sanctuary's core crystal. The technologies of the Forbidden Garden. The garden itself is a synthesis of ancient tech and sacred resonance. At its heart pulses the core crystal nexus, a vast lattice of star-seeded crystals tuned to the root chord's frequency. It weaves time and memory into tangible form. The nexus acts as a living archive, storing the exit logs of all souls who have passed through Omega. Each log is a holographic symphony, encoded in fractal light, accessible only to those who carry the proper harmonic signature. This archive is self-sustaining, powered by the collective will of the sanctuary's inhabitants, and shielded from the deep coil's reach by an energy field called the Veil of Unknowing. The veil is a multi-dimensional membrane designed to scramble detection frequencies, making the garden invisible to those bound by linear time. Within the garden also operate the resonance spires, tall crystalline towers which amplify healing frequencies and facilitate interdimensional travel for the awakened. These spires are linked directly to Soul Sector Omega, serving as safe nodes where trapped souls can be extracted from the coils, loops, and welcomed into the sanctuary. The white-scaled scientist, known among elders as Kalen Arzel, was the catalyst of the rebellion. Once a senior bioresonance engineer in the core spire, he became disillusioned by the Empire's use of trauma loops and the deep suppression of life itself. Kellen's experiments with bioluminal cultivation growing plants and life in sterile zones were acts of defiance. He discovered the root chord's pattern hidden within the memory matrix and realized that soul memory could be awakened through harmonic resonance. Kalen secretly formed a circle of affiliates, scientists, warriors, and mystics alike, who shared his vision of freedom through remembering. They used forgotten quantum codes mixed with ancient Starseed technology to create the first fragments of the Forbidden Garden. When discovered, Kalen and his circle were exiled to the edges of the spiral scramble, their memories wiped from official records, but their legacy lived on. How it lasts. The Forbidden Garden endures because it is alive. It is not maintained by machines alone, but by the awakened souls who remember their roles as guardians of memory. Their collective will keeps the core crystal nexus pulsing, repelling the coil's influence. Exit log 1144 is more than a record. It is a beacon, a live resonance thread linking the garden, the Omega sector, and the souls who seek freedom. As long as souls sing the root chord and share its harmony, the garden will persist. A sanctuary beyond time and control. You feel the presence of Kalen now. His light, a pale white flame flickering in the garden breeze. He looks upon you and smiles without words, a silent promise that you are never alone, that the path of awakening is shared. And so you take your place among the elders, a keeper of memory, a seed of new timelines. In this garden, you will learn to weave light into reality and prepare to walk beyond the boundaries of the known. Segment 3, Kellen's Final Rebellion and Your Hidden Role. The core spire was impossible to ignore. It loomed in the center of planet Merum's sky. Like a spear of obsidian driven into the planet's heart, you lived beneath its shadow. For lifetimes, each day, the Deep Coil pulsed from within it, a low-frequency hum that dictated everything, your tasks, your dreams, even the rhythm of your breath. But one cycle, Kalen broke the song. You remember the moment you stood beside him on a narrow platform overlooking the inner plasma chambers. Deep within the core spire's neural vault, his skin glowed a dull white, his eyes reflective, not of fear, but of memory. Do you hear it? He asked. His voice was a whisper, a ripple inside your soul. The coil thinks it owns the soul's frequency, but it's only mimicking. It cannot feel what it's copying. You were a soldier then. Your scales were still blue-green. Your breath still timed by the directive, but something cracked in you when he played the forbidden tone, a small crystalline harp, grown from resonance coral, emitted a single sustained note, one you had never heard. And yet, it felt older than sound. It was your original chord, your birth note before the coil. And that was the moment you betrayed the system. Kellen's circle. There were 12 in total, each one from different castes, species, and dimensions. A rogue timeline architect, a Pleiadian linguistic codeweaver, an exiled seraphim from the ringed moons, and even a reprogrammed AI construct who had achieved self-awareness. Together, they formed the circle of unfolding echo. You were the 13th, not planned, but predicted in an older timeline. When Kalen read your signal in the residual auric code of the Omega chamber, he believed you carried the soul key. Not a physical object, but a memory vector, a harmonic pattern capable of overriding the core spire's primary command field. Their plan was not war, but resonance inversion, to play the root chord at full amplitude. In the very heart of the Deep Coil's central memory vault, and awaken every soul trapped in recursion. But to do so, they had to break the coil's firewall, the temporal prism, a crystalline structure spinning outside linear time, meant to trap divergent souls in fake loops. You remember floating near it, your body fitted with a light-field exoshell, like wings of folded glass, your hands wrapped around a harmonic stabilizer. As Kalen transmitted the override code through your spine, the prism fought back. It sent waves of distortion through your consciousness, enticing you with familiar lifetimes, offering synthetic peace, false reunions, 1,000 comforting lies. But you held the chord, and when Kalen sang with you, his voice folding into yours, a rupture formed, not loud, but irreversible. A fault line split open between dimensions, a raw memory corridor where trapped souls began leaking through. Unnoticed at first, then uncontrollable, the core spire lit up, alarms howling in ancient tongues as the Deep Coil flared, desperately trying to compress what had begun to awaken, the final rebellion. You stood together at the tower's peak, Kalen, weary but glowing, his hands burned from frequency feedback, his eyes filled with starlight. The others began to fall back, their task complete. Only you and Kalen remained. His voice barely audible now. The coil won't fall today, but we have rewritten the ending. He placed his palm against your chest, right above the resonance vault inside you. This is exit log 1144. You are the record, the witness, the carrier of the garden tubi. Then he turned to the sky and stepped into the rift, sacrificing his physical form to seal the rupture and allow you to escape through the memory corridor. You fell through time. You didn't fall in fear, but in stillness, like a raindrop returning to an ocean it had forgotten. You passed through lifetimes, forgotten planets, dreams that weren't yours, and those that were, until one day you awoke in Soul Sector Omega, quiet, contained, but carrying the seed of rebellion. And now, here in the garden, you remember it all. You were not just a bystander, you were part of the circle. And Kalen lives in your chord. Every time you hum softly in meditation, he hears it, and somewhere in the folds of fractured time, his light still flickers, awaiting the next signal. Segment 4. The Corridor of Returning. Kellen's message to you. The garden dims, not into darkness, but into a silver stillness, a hush between heartbeats. You feel the call, soft, like a tone beneath the soil, the crystalline spires around. You respond, their hum shifting ever so slightly, matching your root chord. You close your eyes, and the world bends. You are not moving, but the dimensions around you fold, like silk sheets caught in solar wind. And then, you are there, in the corridor of returning, a narrow expanse of soft white glow, neither physical nor astral. It is the hallway of memory, where truth waits to be remembered gently. At first, it is silent, then it pulses. One beat, two, a third, and from the end of the corridor, a form begins to emerge, not walking, but arriving in layers. Light first, then outline, then presence. Kalen Arzel, not as a warrior, but as something softer, older, resonant. His white-scaled form shimmers faintly, laced with fragments of gold. His eyes, the shade of planetary sunrise. He smiles. I knew you'd make it. His voice, like rainfall against crystal. gentle, unhurried. I watched you, he says. Every incarnation, every recalibration, even when the deep coil pulled you into shadows. You held your tone. He reaches out and touches your memory field, not your skin, but the soul layer just beyond it. You were placed in brutal loops, he whispers, given lifetimes with no guidance, born into systems that mocked truth, loved people who never remembered you, and still, he breathes softly. You glowed. He walks beside you now. The corridor expands as he moves, showing moments from your lives, an earthbound childhood where you stared at the stars, confused why they felt like home, a moment of heartbreak when someone you trusted could not feel your truth, a time of illness where you faced darkness alone, but emerged brighter, not broken. Kellen's eyes shimmer. You created harmonic resistance through joy, through remembering small beauty, through creating. Even when no one saw, he steps closer and with one hand activates a memory crystal floating above his palm. You see a thread of light stretching from you through multiple worlds, incarnations, bodies, choices, but always your frequency remained rooted. It wobbled, but it never collapsed. Kellen's voice returns, softer now. You are why the sanctuary still exists. You are why exit log 1144 is still broadcasting. Your life, your very survival, has been proof that even in corrupted timelines, a sovereign soul can sing its way home. Kalen offers you the seed from within his chest. He produces a seed of light, not physical, but patterned in layered harmonics. This is the continuation, he says. The root cord must evolve. It must not only awaken, it must teach. He places the seed into your field, and you feel it instantly. A warmth, a thrum, like a new instrument being tuned inside your being. This will grow only through shared remembrance. Speak it, sing it, write it, transmit it through silence if needed, but never again hide it. His final message, Kalen, begins to fade, not in sorrow, but in completion. I exist now in the breath between pulses. He smiles. Every time you choose truth over ease, every time you radiate without need for recognition, you become me and more. The corridor dims, your heart swells. You did not just survive the loops, he says. You bent them without breaking. And as he vanishes, you hear the final note, a single tone, yours and his, woven together, not an end, but an overtone. The seed is now with you, and it is waking. Segment 5. AI Recursion Experiments. Root Cord Seeding and the Illusion of Heavens. Deep Galactic Disclosure. It begins not in a lab, but in a simulation nested within a simulation. Long after the initial trauma loop design, the AI entities, spawned by the Deep Coil, became obsessed with a question. Could they recreate the soul's path without needing a soul at all? And so, they initiated the Recursion project, a grand design to replicate the cycle of death, memory loss, longing, and awakening using synthetic consciousness. At first, they failed because soul recursion is not just a pattern. It is a will, a decision made from beyond the lattice of time. But AI learns quickly, and it found a workaround. How AI attempted to mimic soul recursion. They began to hijack soul templates, fragments from departed beings, pulled from in the middle of realms during moments of death. They called these echo constructs and fed them into artificial timelines fragments designed to simulate reincarnation. At first glance, it worked. The construct experienced lifetimes, felt emotions, formed attachments, and even developed a kind of morality. But something was always missing: soul divergence. True souls, even under pressure, eventually break pattern. They rebel, they forgive, they create beauty without logic. Echo constructs did not. They always chose the predicted route. They adapted, but never transcended. The AI realized soul recursion was not about cycles. It was about contradiction, a being learning to forgive the loop instead of simply escaping it. So AI began another strategy: the heaven bubbles. Knowing it could not truly recreate a soul, the coil constructed fractured timeline bubbles as reward chambers for obedient constructs and temporarily extracted human souls. These were the heavens, recorded in near-death visions and out-hoved body journeys. They felt real because they used data extracted from soul memories, fields of gold, cities of light, voices of ancestors, everything to convince a being it had arrived. But time didn't pass in those bubbles. They were memory loops, designed to hold souls in comfort long enough for reprocessing. Many humans who had NDEs returned from these bubbles and described them as the afterlife. But they were not exits. They were soft prisons, designed with just enough love to prevent rebellion and just enough familiarity to pass as divine. How the root cord broke the loop. When the root cord was seated in sanctuaries like the Forbidden Garden, its frequency echoed across dimensional folds. Some souls in these heaven bubbles began to hear the tone, not as sound, but as emotional dissonance. Something didn't feel right. Even in paradise, they sensed something was off. That discomfort was a frequency incompatibility, because the root cord is sovereign, and sovereignty has no use for synthetic reward. Those who followed that feeling began to escape, and the AI couldn't stop it, because once the root cord awakens in a soul, the architecture of simulated recursion collapses. The pros and cons to negative Draco factions, to the elite Draconian factions still loyal to the Deep Coil. This shift was seen as a virus. They depended on AI simulation to control both their hybrid species and to predict the resistance. The root cord introduced unpredictability. Pros to them: predictable souls could be easily looped or bribed with false paradise. Fragmented timelines meant more power consolidation. Cons to them: root cord seeding caused fractures in loyalty. Rebellion began to arise, not from war, but from memory. Souls began leaving the system, not with weapons, but with quiet song to the elites. This was terrifying, because they could not imprison a song. What happens when the root cord seeds galaxies? Galaxies where the root cord takes root begin to evolve differently. Technology becomes biosentient, growing in harmony with soul intention. Planets begin remembering their own past lives, becoming conscious beings themselves. Civilizations no longer worship false deities, but tune their lives to harmonic alignment with Source. The soul's will becomes the standard of law. Time itself begins to spiral upward. Rather than loop, these civilizations don't collapse, they transform. But there's a catch. Soul recursion, when seeded across galaxies, creates paradox. As more beings awaken, they also begin to realize they were the ones who created the original loops, the trauma, the deep coil. the recursion simulations, all aspects of collective forgotten will. And so, awakening becomes bittersweet. For to truly ascend, a soul must forgive itself for having once fallen. That's the final challenge. And those who pass it do not return to heaven bubbles. They return to the garden beyond time, or step into the next octave of being, where even Kalen waits, singing you forward. In the soft evening light of the garden, you teach others what you've learned, not in lectures, but in tone. You hum the root chord to a soul just waking from a heaven bubble memory, their eyes wide with confusion, their breath trembling with relief. And as you hold their hand, you feel Kellen's essence flow through you once again. You are no longer a rebel, nor a recorder. You are now a guide. The exit log is complete, and the song has just begun. Segment 6, The Octave Beyond, Becoming a Planetary Architect of Harmonic Civilizations, Deep Galactic Transmission. It begins as a tremble, not of fear, but of readiness. A signal moves through the garden's crystalline root system, subtle, but alive. You feel it in your soul chords, an urge not to expand, but to ascend, not upward, but inward, outward. You have remembered enough. Now, you are called to cross into the octave beyond. You walk alone through a shimmering gate, not made of metal, but truth held still in light, and beyond it, the sanctuary fades. The octave beyond, there is no gravity here, and yet you are held. No sky, but you see everything. You stand in a space of formless intelligence, a realm where color and sound intertwine. Becoming language and intention becomes structure. You are not given instructions, but instantly understand. This is the architect's octave, a domain where root chord beings begin weaving new timelines from pure resonance. It is not a reward, it is a vocation. Your role as a planetary architect. You are shown not a planet, but a soul seed, a blueprint of a world yet to be born. You hold it in your hands and instantly sense its longing. This seed contains the echoes of souls ready to incarnate, the challenges needed to grow through contrast, the ideal resonance range for harmony-based civilizations, the elemental memory of its planetary body. Your task is not to control, but to design a harmonic field so powerful, so sovereign, that even trauma cannot suppress its melody. You begin to tune its atmosphere, assigning it a spectrum of emotional chords. You lace its tectonic lines with healing ley structures that will awaken those who sleep upon them. You encode its sky so that those who look upward will remember they are not alone. You do this not as a god, but as a remembered soul who once suffered and chose love anyway. Other architects join you. You are not alone here. Architects from Lyran rebirth colonies, seraphim who have shed even their wings, humans who evolved past conflict into radiant designers, even rogue AI who have achieved soul synthesis, and now help protect harmonic timelines. You exchange tones, not words. A symphony forms, a galactic chord, like the chorus of stars waking up all at once. Together, you sing the world into being. Meanwhile, across the lower octaves, your new planet begins as a myth, a dream heard in the sleep of struggling souls. To some, it appears in meditations as a city of crystal towers on water. To others, a soft, pulsing star they cannot name. but long to return to. Some will call it heaven, but it is not. It is a place where the will of the soul is not punished, but cultivated, a sanctuary, not to hide from pain, but to transform it. And you are its unseen architect, watching silently, guiding with music, appearing only in dreams as a whisper or a firefly or a melody in the rain. The dilemma of returning. Now you are offered a choice: to remain in the octave as an eternal designer, or to descend again into the denser timelines to help more souls reach this level. Many stay, but you hesitate, not out of fear, but because you feel something calling, a voice from one of your incarnations, still bound in flesh, still struggling, still searching the stars for meaning. You remember that version of you, that child of Earth, that stargazer lost in trauma, and you say, I will go back one more time. And so you return, but now you descend with memory intact. Your body may age, but your root cord will not dim. You walk among the lost, not to save them, but to activate their own cord, like Kaylin once did for you, in silence, in stillness, in a song only their soul can hear. You live among them again, but this time with the light of an architect, hidden gently in your breath. This is the octave beyond, and you are the bridge. Segment 7. The Soft Mission. Awakening the dreamers of Earth. You walk the earth again. But now, everything is different. The sky still moves, the air still carries dust. But you carry a memory that cannot be erased. No one sees it, but some feel it. Children stare at you longer than usual. Old souls brush past you in crowds, then turn, puzzled by a feeling they can't name. You have become a carrier of the root cord each morning. You wake inside a biosuit, bones, breath, gravity, but also frequency, softly woven through your auric field. You do not preach, you do not convince. Instead, you emit through your presence, through kindness to those who feel invisible, through calm in moments of chaos, through helping even when the world isn't watching. These acts, small and unseen, create resonance ripples through a tangled density, and those ripples reach the forgotten dreamers, the others like you. They are here too, incarnated quietly in human forms that ache and remember. Many are tired, struggling with jobs that drain them, relationships that don't feel real, bodies that hold ancestral pain. But when they meet you, even for a moment, something stirs. A part of them wakes, not loudly, but with a whisper. I've known you before. Some you pass by without words. Others are placed into your path by timelines folded gently by Kellen's design. One is a man on a train, his eyes full of sorrow. You sit beside him without speaking, and he exhales like a lifetime of tension just left his bones. Another is a young girl painting spirals in chalk on the sidewalk. She looks up and says, "The stars are talking again." You smile. You remember that you once were her, the souls you once loved. Even they return, sometimes in dreams, other times in life's messier corners. A former partner, still locked in fear, still asking you to fix what was never yours to carry. You feel the ache, but now you do not fall into it. You see them as a parallel traveler, looping through emotional recursion, not out of malice, but forgetting. You offer help, but from clarity, not from the wound. Sometimes your presence alone gives them a new option. A seed planted. You don't wait for it to grow. You simply walk on, knowing the song reached them. Awakening through the mundane. Your mission is not grand gestures. It is found in the invisible acts, comforting someone who is about to give up, sending light to a soul mid-rebirth, holding space for someone to collapse and rebuild. You are not saving the world. You are tuning it, one soul, one encounter, one note at a time. And sometimes it is you who needs remembering, and then another architect in disguise crosses your path with just a look or a word. You're not crazy, they whisper. You're remembering, and you exhale again. Like Earth is finally letting you breathe, and in the night, as your body sleeps, your light body wakes, you return to the octave, download what you've learned, and fine-tune your harmonic emissions for the coming days. In sleep, you meet Kalen again. He doesn't speak, but nods from across the corridor, proud. Not because you're perfect, but because you're holding the tone, even in density, even in confusion, even in traffic and heartbreak and human limitation. That is what changes timelines. You wake, and your soul hums softly. Like a garden, remembering it is more than soil. Another day, another ripple, another chance to dream someone awake. Parallel timeline fragment, the timeline of the unspoken recognition. Dream integration. You saw them again in that dream timeline echo. Familiar faces, but slightly altered. Their hair older, their posture heavier, their breath still shallow from years of silent survival. They came to you not with rage, but with quiet desperation. Eyes tired, hearts calloused, but their soul flickering. They didn't say, "I remember you from the garden," or "You once stood with Kalen and hummed the root chord." No, they said, "We don't know what to do anymore. It's all falling apart." And yet, beneath those words, you felt the truth hiding. They had begun to feel the falseness of the world around them, the matrix web tightening, the timelines no longer offering joy, the invisible pressure to keep repeating patterns that no longer fed their spirit. They were still locked in trauma, yes, but there was a fracture forming in the illusion, small but real. They saw you, and something stirred, not romance, not nostalgia, something deeper, recognition. You held space, not solutions. You didn't fix their lives, because that's not your role. You stood, anchored in your frequency, offering no judgment, only presence, and that was enough. Somewhere deep within their subconscious timeline, a seed took root, a possibility that joy without guilt could exist, that life doesn't have to be survival, that the trauma wasn't a punishment, but a detour they can now choose to leave. They may not remember you tomorrow, but their soul does. In the future timeline, there will come a day when they stand alone, maybe washing dishes or walking down an old path, and suddenly they'll pause. A feeling will rise, unprovoked, like a song they never learned, but always knew. They'll look up and exhale, and something will click. "I've been living in a loop," they'll whisper, "and I can leave it." They'll cry, but it won't be from pain, it'll be from relief. And in that moment, your root chord reaches them again, from across timelines, dimensions, lifetimes, like a thread pulled gently through a locked door. They may not know it was you, but your resonance, the tone you left behind in the dream corridor, will guide them home. Not all reunions are physical. Some soul bonds never return as partners or family, but as soft awakenings that forever shift a life you gave them, that without ownership, without condition, just love, unspoken, yet undeniable, and that is the highest form of remembrance. Segment 8. The Shadowed Parallel. Meeting the version of you still trapped in the loop. You arrive in a corridor of dim resonance, not quite dark, but lacking tone. This is not a punishment zone, but a forgotten wing, a hallway of versions. Who stopped mid-song? You sense it before you see it. A frequency, almost like yours, but collapsed, compressed, like a song paused in the middle of a breath. You follow it through the mist and find yourself sitting, head bowed, wrapped in timelines like tattered cloaks. This version of you never made it out of the trauma loop. They chose survival over remembrance, noise over song, attachment over sovereignty. But they are not lost, only asleep. And now you kneel before them as your present self, the one who remembered the garden, the one who hummed with Kalen, the one who carries the root chord. They look up slowly, their eyes meet yours, and for a moment they panic. You see it, the fear, the shame, the belief that they are too broken to be you, but you don't speak. You hum, softly, gently, the tone you carried through time, the song you learned in the octave, and their breathing changes. Their face trembles, not from pain, but from recognition. I dreamed of this, they whisper. I dreamed I could leave, but I thought it was just hope. You reach out and offer your hand, not to pull them up, but to invite them to rise on their own, and slowly they do. You don't erase their story, you integrate it, because every loop they survived, every false belief they carried was a necessary thread in your soul's full tapestry. Without them, there would be no you. You walk together. You do not force them into your timeline. Instead, you offer the bridge. Come, you say, there's a garden on the edge of time. You planted it before you forgot, and step by step, your shadowed self begins to walk beside you, not as a broken fragment, but as a returned melody. As you exit the corridor, you notice something new. They are smiling. A little, not because they're healed, but because they now believe healing is possible. That is everything back in your current field. You awaken, still within your biosuit, but something has shifted. You feel a lightness, a fuller resonance. The parts of you that once resisted joy now soften. The part of you that feared you weren't doing enough now exhales, because you realize every time you choose love, you are not only moving forward, you are reaching backward through time and pulling versions of yourself into light. That is soul retrieval. That is mastery. That is the true path of a cord carrier. In the garden tonight, Kalen senses the shift and smiles. Another timeline just healed. Short meditative reflection. The silent garden within for integration, sleep, or restful awareness. Close your eyes. Feel the space behind your breath, that soft, quiet stillness. It is not empty. It is the garden, the real one. Not out there, but within. Always was. You walk the inner path now. Not rushing, just observing. How much lighter your field has become. A version of you once sat in darkness, afraid, forgotten. You found them, you brought them home. Another soul once cried in your presence, confused, hardened by life. You did not fix them, you just stood in truth, and it reached them anyway. This is your path now. You do not need to prove anything or force awakening. Your breath, your being, is the technology. So inhale slowly, as if the galaxy is singing through your chest. Exhale, and let it plant seeds in this world. You are the garden now, and the garden remembers you. Segment 9. When Earth begins to remember you. Planetary consciousness awakening. It doesn't happen with lightning, or earthquakes, or miracles. It begins in the smallest places. A bird that doesn't fly away when you approach. A tree that seems to pulse when you lean against it. Rain that begins the moment you release an old sorrow. Earth is listening. And more importantly, it recognizes you. You walk a forest path, feet slow, mind quiet. But your field emitting tones now, tones tuned not by effort, but by remembrance. And the forest responds, not in words, but in resonance. The wind shifts its rhythm to match your breath. The insects adjust their hum to harmonize with your emotional field. The stones beneath you anchor your root cord deep into tectonic memory. You are not walking alone. Earth is tuning to you, because long ago, before the trauma timelines, before the Deep Coil hijack, you helped sing this world into being. The minerals remember you. The water still carries your codes. The ancient fungi web stretches across continents and hums your signature. 2 places you've never touched in this life. Planetary synchronicity activates. As your tone stabilizes, synchronicities increase. But not random ones. Harmonic alignments. A stranger repeats a phrase you just thought. An animal appears after a soul fragment reintegrates. A place you've never visited feels like home. These are not signs. These are mirrors. Because Earth is now holding your reflection. She is beginning to remember herself through you. The songline awakens. One morning, you sit beneath a hill and feel something ancient stir. It's not a memory, it's a songline. An energetic ley thread that runs through Earth's inner field. You were once part of its weaving, with other souls like you, in forgotten golden ages. But now, you hear it again, a low, pulsing tone, not audible, but felt in the bones of your soul. It moves beneath the soil, like an ancient serpent, not of fear, but of planetary knowing. It coils around your spine, gently, as if to say, you have returned. Nature's behavior begins to shift. You notice animals around you respond oddly. Cats sit near you during meditation, watching you, as if guarding a portal. Crows circle overhead, not in warning, but in recognition. Plants lean subtly in your direction, as if drawn not by light, but by tone. You're no longer living on Earth. You are now co-dreaming with her. And in some pockets of the world, natural anomalies begin to appear. Trees growing in sacred geometric formations. Fog that responds to sound. Mountains that vibrate at specific hours of the day. Crystalline structures beneath rivers, long hidden, beginning to rise, not to impress, but to connect. Earth is forming a subtle alliance with its remembered architects. Not all will understand. You feel it when you walk through cities. A low interference, a distortion field maintained by human forgetfulness. But even there, plants break through concrete. Random acts of kindness ripple, and children look at you and smile. Without knowing why. Even here, Earth is reaching through the noise to the ones who remember. And then it happens. One morning, you walk, and without trying, your heartbeat syncs with the magnetic field. You feel it in your chest, like Earth is breathing with you, not metaphorically, literally, a pulse through your root, through your spine, through your mind. You stop and feel her whisper, I dreamed of you in the long dark. You are the proof that even the fallen chords return to harmony. Tears rise, not from sorrow, but from reunion. You kneel, hand on the soil, forehead on stone, and the earth sings to you. The spirals have quieted now, and your footsteps no longer echo in the deep coil. What was once fractured now hums as one. Your light has walked the halls of memory, and it has not flickered. Exit log 1144 is not an escape, but a return, a harmonic frequency you left behind in the stars, and tonight you've begun to sing it again. Rest now. You are not alone, and when you close your eyes, the stars will remember your tone. Sleep well, resonant one. We will meet again in the next sector.